気分は最高だけどびっくり世界がどう
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 17 of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Denji Sentai Megaranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listener. My name is Matt J, and with me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well, man. It's brisk out, which is that is the number one.
The number one weather?
Balmy is a close second. Yeah, brisk is number one weather. Balmy is a close second. But brisk is number one.
It was 73, I think, when I went to go take a walk after work, which I will talk about in a minute.
Crushing it. Loving it.
So good. Which is weird because I understand that there are like record heats on the West Coast, and I feel badly for those people. But at this moment, weather is very good in Cleveland, and that happens not every day, so you got to really soak it in.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know what else is great to soak in, Dave? Is episode 17 of Denji Sentai Megaranger. It is called Too Cool, the Awesome Super Miku.
Man, this was such a good episode.
Very good for a number of reasons. But of course, before we get into that, Dave, as always, there is our officially award-winning opening segment. Dave Shining in the Heavens, there are 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
Matt, our first star of the week is that isolation, Matt. Isolation never changes. It's Isolation Update. Isolation Update.
So, Dave, how has your isolation been?
It's still going. It's still going. Things are about to get a lot crazier for me because the school year is starting up. So my first day is Thursday, and I still don't know what the school schedule is going to be as far as like how we're interacting with our students. Definitely. There's been a lot of proposals.
For reference, but as we record this, it is Tuesday night.
Yup. Now, I should say my first day is Thursday, and then we actually have scheduled into this year. Normally, there's like 2 days where we're doing stuff, and then the students will show up. We've actually scheduled in a full extra week.
Okay. So you're not starting
teacher
with
work.
Students this week.
That's correct. But it still would be nice to know, like, exactly what's happening. Probably what it'll be is like there will be a requirement for like some face-to-face via like Google Meet or something, and then some days of the week it'll just be like do assignments kind of at your own pace and sort of like check in here and there. So it's just, things are about to get pretty wild for me. I'm about to go back to work in like a very strange way. I know I talked like at the beginning of summer about the weird anticipation of doing this, that like there's been no evolving scenario. Like it just stopped and then it starts again and you're just like in it. It's always very weird. But other than that, man, the isolation is going fine. Like I take really long walks almost every day with the kids, and I've been working out, and I made myself some weights out of PVC and cement, and that was very satisfying.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that the other week. Did those work out okay?
I did. Yeah, they worked out great. They are.
Do you have any sense as to how heavy they are?
Yeah, they're around 5-ish pounds. Okay. Something like that.
So like just heavy enough to move around.
Yeah. Well, I've been using water bottles, which are only about 2.5 pounds, and which does not seem like a lot of weight, but the exercises that you do with them, like this routine that I do is almost all body weight. Just so the exercises you do with these weights are like very specific muscle groups, and they're not big muscle groups. Like it's all like shoulder, like just your shoulder work. And so it doesn't take a lot of weight for it to actually get fairly tiring pretty quickly. But other than that, it's going good, man. I'm about to crack 200 pounds, which I thought I had done before. And then it turns out I had a real broken scale. But now I'm about to really do it, and that feels very good.
Oh, dude. I mean, I mentioned this a while ago, but I have sort of accidentally lost weight this year.
Yeah.
I mentioned on Twitter that, like, it feels like I've wasted a lot of time trying to lose weight by, like, changing my diet and exercise when all it really took was constantly vibrating with rage and anxiety for 5 months to just really like...
It burns a ton of calories.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, it's a weird year. I feel like whatever everybody's bodies look like at the end of this year, like when you see people you haven't seen in a long time, just be kind to whatever happened to them.
Yeah. I mean, don't be afraid to be appropriately celebratory if it... Yeah,
right.
Like, listen, everybody's on their own corn journey, and you just meet people where they're at, man. You can meet them with joy, or just meet them where they're at, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, let's all be cool. Let's all be cool. The world is hard enough and crummy enough right now.
But you know what, Dave? I went on, speaking of long walks, it wasn't just a long walk, it was one of those good walks today. You know how sometimes you go out for a walk and just like...
One of the really rare ones.
Yeah, like it just completely changes the mood of the entire day.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. I've got like a top 3 walks.
Yeah. And I've mentioned specific walks on here before. But today's walk... Okay, so I went out for a walk. It was like 7:30, right?
Love it.
And the time of year it is means that now 7:30 is in sort of like that golden hour of sunlight, right? Where like everything just looks as good as it possibly can. Like the sun is low in the sky, but it's not sunset yet. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yes, of course I do.
So...
I'm into it. It's the best.
So it was like around that time, like I said, it was like 73 degrees, slight breeze, little brisk. I was out for a walk, and I live on the west side of the city, right? So that means when I'm walking towards like Edgewater Park and like towards the city, that means the sun is setting behind me as opposed to setting behind the city. So I get to see like the reflection of the sunset on the lake and the city as I'm walking instead of seeing it sort of happen behind, which is a really like the sun was hitting like the trees of the park and the water of the lake and like the blue of the sky in this very specific way. And I was listening to like this one Hall & Oates song on a loop, and it was just like walks do not get better than that. There were just enough people outside that it felt like I lived in a world with people in it, which was great, but not so many people that I had to like keep changing the side of the road that I was walking on to like keep away from them.
This sounds like a killer walk, my dude. This sounds like a very, very good walk.
I've got some very good post-walk energy going on right now. Anyway, Dave, what is our second star of the week?
Man, our second star of the week, it's Bun Vulcan. Welcome to Bun Vulcan. Now, Matt, you put Bun Vulcan up here again, so I am assuming you've got some baking-oriented...
I do, yeah.
Updates, hit me.
I would be surprised if you didn't also. Do you not?
No, I do. Yeah,
okay.
I do, but I didn't put it on. Normally, I'm like, let's put it on because I did a thing.
Okay, so
I did do.
So I tried a new bread this week.
Love it.
It is an English bloomer loaf.
I'd never even heard of this.
Okay, so basically it's white bread.
Now, in England, bloomers can also refer to your underpants.
Man, I genuinely don't know which it is. The idea of it is that it's basically a white bread loaf, just like a pretty standard sandwich loaf, except that you don't put it in a loaf pan. So, like, it's it's sort of like a self-contained, like, oval loaf, but you make it like white bread that would normally have to be put in a loaf. It's very similar to other bread doughs I've done, except that, A, you can kind of do it all in one day pretty easily. It only takes a couple hours. And B...
Now, what is I'm assuming that there is, like, some sort of notable difference. Like, is it crustier? Is it... Like, what's going
crusty.
on? Is there...
It is less crusty.
Really?
Yeah, the outside of it is pretty soft. The inside of it is, like, soft but dense. Like, it's not airy, but it is soft. It's basically like a regular, like salt, flour, yeast, water, but it also includes a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. into the dough.
Interesting. So it's an enriched dough.
It's an enriched dough. I actually pulled out my crummy little stand mixer for it to like keep it in the mixer
to really
keep it in the mixer for 10
minutes.
minutes.
Because you really got to beat the heck out of it. That's awesome. So it turned out well, I assume.
It turned out pretty well. It ended up a little more like flat and circular as opposed to like tall and oval than I was hoping. But here's the real reason I wanted to bring it up, is the recipe that I got it from was a YouTube video from a guy I have been watching a ton of YouTube videos from. He's this retired English chef named John Kirkwood. And
that's a great name.
He is a retired English chef from the north of England in the UK, as he says at the top of every one of his videos. And he just seems like this soft-spoken, sweet old man. And all of his recipes are either like cool baking stuff or just like, here's how you make a mince pie. Like, here is how you make like a Scotch egg. It's all great bread recipes and like super like stereotypical English foods, and they are extremely pleasant to watch. If you're looking for some pleasant British instructional baking videos, which sounds very specific, but I know that that's something people want because it's something I want.
I was going to say, why are you even asking if I want that? Yeah, of course I want that, Matt.
He's an old dude and he's got a Patreon, and I don't know how many people follow him, but he does like Patreon shout outs in like this wonderful soft English voice. I love it so much. Definitely check out John Kirkwood.
Yeah, no, I am already Matt, I just subscribed. I've not even seen a single one of this dude's videos, but he's got my subscription.
Anyway, Dave, what is your Bun Vulcan update of the week?
Oh, okay, so here's my Bun Vulcan update. I did a second round of that chai flavored cake, and it turned out okay. And I was like, man, there's something still wrong with this. And I was talking with Beth, who has, and I think I've talked about this before, how she has more just like general baking knowledge than I do. And she was like,
especially with something like cakes.
Yeah. And so
I
was like, man, this cake still seems like kind of dry and a little tough. And it's supposed to be, and like the baking times are off by like a lot. And Genoese is supposed to be like super like fine, like a super fine cake. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. And she said, well, like, let's kind of talk through it. So I talked through it. And the recipe calls for 10 grams of vanilla extract, and I didn't have that. And so I was using dry spices because I was making a spice cake rather than a vanilla cake. Well, the difference is that vanilla extract is a liquid, and I was using dry spices. So the flavor was very good, but I had effectively a 20-gram swing of wet to dry.
That makes sense, yeah.
So my hydration levels on this cake were all off. So third round, here's what I did, is I made my own chai extract.
Okay.
I just got some chai tea bags, and I had some crummy vodka around that Beth was using for canning, so I just stuck them in there like overnight, like 24 hours, and it got like a great chai flavor, and I put that in instead of vanilla extract. And the recipe does call for a little bit of potato starch, so I still put in some dry spices, but I subtracted out of the potato starch the same weight.
Like the volume
of dry
that
spices.
You were adding in dry spice?
Precisely. I do it by weight, but yes, yeah, exactly. And I did it, and it turned out the cooking time was still way off. He says 30 to 35 minutes. My cake was done in like 22. I still don't know why. But there you have it.
Whatever, man.
It did turn out great. Here was the only problem, though. I did an American buttercream, which is just butter and powdered sugar. Mm-hmm. And it's delicious, but it's kind of a dense frosting.
Yeah.
And for my previous cakes, it was fine because the cake was a little bit dry.
Oh, I see what you're doing, Matt.
But now I had this like beautiful, delicate sponge, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I did an American buttercream, and I kind of tore the cake up.
It just like crushed it.
Yeah, try to frost it. So I think I'll try it again, and I'm going to try like maybe an Italian buttercream, which is like meringue based, or maybe I'll just do like whipped cream or something. But anyways, it turned out really well, and that is my Bun Vulcan update.
Nice.
What? Yeah, Matt is our third star of the week.
Dave, I watched a movie I really liked.
That's great.
Which was a great experience.
Oh, cool.
I watched the new movie that is on Hulu called Palm Springs. Have
you
seen this movie?
I did see this movie. It was extremely good.
Okay. It's
Well,
extremely
Andy Samberg's
good.
great.
Okay,
Andy Samberg is great in basically everything.
Okay, and specifically, I don't think there is a bad Lonely Island movie. And not only do I think they're all good, I think that they are all good in ways that people do not give them credit for. Like Popstar? Popstar is like a legit good movie that people blew off.
Yeah, they did. And it is actually a very good movie. I liked it a lot.
But I want to talk about Palm Springs because I think, okay, there's going to be some spoilers for this movie because it's been out for a few weeks and I want to talk about a few specific things. I think the way this movie is structured is really interesting and like super effective. Right? Okay, so Palm Springs is a time loop movie, right? It's like a Groundhog Day
Yes. I have only one problem with Palm Springs, but go ahead.
Okay. But it does a clever thing with the structure, which is that it's not one person going through the time loop. It's two people going through the time loop. Or three, kind of, but mostly two, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that does... Oh, and, like, you don't realize it until, like, I don't know, 15 minutes into the movie. But Andy Samberg's character has already been in the time loop for, like, forever.
Yeah,
like it's never clear as to how long it's been exactly... But if
it is not, but it is obviously like...
It is easy to believe that it has been at minimum years.
Oh, I was about to say that it seems to me to have been at minimum...
Like decades.
Maybe like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. But like, we get very little look at what his journey was. But like 15 minutes into it, the Sarah character, played by Christina... Mialotti? I'm not looking at it right now. Anyway, she's very good. She was in the last season of How I Met Your Mother, which I never watched, but I looked her up on IMDb for like some context. She is super great in it, and she like enters the time loop. And what that does is it gives two different reference points for what's happening. So like there are times when like it's very much a co-lead movie. But it does it in a way where, like, you're watching these two characters sort of from their own perspective going through it, and it overlaps a lot, but, like, it has sort of a different vibe when it's coming from the different characters.
Yeah, it definitely does.
And so what that does is that, like, it makes, like, when it's Andy Samberg's movie, it's a story about, like, this guy just sort of, like, stuck in loneliness and despair until, like, this other person comes into his life, and he can, like, sort of... Like, that's something he can, like, latch onto, and he kind of, like, you know, comes alive again, sort of. And, like, he's going through his own journey there. Sarah's story is, like, it's basically the hero's journey, where, like, Niles, the Andy Samberg character, is, like, the person who she meets as she's, like, giving and rejecting and then accepting the call to adventure. And then eventually becoming the master of both worlds and finding a way to defeat their problem and then escape with both of them.
Like, it really is, like, it's a pretty brilliant movie.
Yeah.
It is a brilliant movie wrapped up in a lot of, like, a Lonely Island goofiness.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it does all that stuff and is genuinely emotional and is super funny.
It's super duper funny.
The soundtrack, like, is great. Like, every song on that soundtrack is a jam.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Now, here is my only problem, is that once they figure out how to do it, or maybe how to get out of it, they leave, what's his name?
Oh, did you not watch through the end of the credits?
Oh, no, I guess I must not have.
Oh, they do not. Like, in the last day, again, we're going, like, end of movie spoilers here, but, you know, skip ahead if you haven't watched the movie and it isn't already ruined for you. In the montage of what she's doing on her last day, she calls Roy, who's the J.K. Simmons character, and leaves him a voicemail. And we don't hear what that voicemail is, and we don't actually know that she's calling Roy. But then in, like, a mid-credits sequence, we have a moment where he shows up at the wedding that they've been stuck in the whole time. And he catches Andy Samberg's character, Niles, and he's like, hey, like, I got the message. Do you think this is actually going to work? But in that moment, Niles is, like, wearing a tuxedo and, like, is clearly in the default version of that day and does not know who Roy is. And so Roy then knows that the method can work.
That it did work.
We can assume, like, he gets out later.
Got it. No, I missed that. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Glad to hear it. That was my only beef with that whole movie.
Super great movie. And also, like, and this has been in like every article that has been written about this movie. Like, this is not a thought that is original to me, but like in a time when like every day feels like we are stuck in the same day over and over again, watching a movie about a time loop is very good. And also because like Niles and Sarah sort of are going through two different versions of like a
time loop, right?
But they're also going through two different versions of like a fantasy of like what good thing could possibly happen in a terrible situation, right? So like he is a character who is just like stuck in a rut and is just like helplessly lonely and like every day feels the same and as though like it will never change and he's given up on all hope. And then suddenly someone new comes into his life and like she changes his life. They become best friends and then fall in love. And then she helps him out and like he can go back. He can like get his life back on track, right? And then she goes through like a totally different version of that where like she is stuck and she is able to like use her time to like grow as a person, like hit like, academic intellectual goals and like learn quantum physics and then actually use the stuff that she has learned in her time in there to like save herself and move on with her life. And then they can go on with their lives together, but their lives together are better than they were before they were stuck in the time loop. And as someone who feels like they are stuck in the time loop, it is very nice to see that sort of thing can happen, at least in a movie.
Yeah, dude. Hey, you're doing stuff. You losing weight. You're baking bread. You're crushing it.
Anyway, it was an extremely good movie. I watched it. I went for a walk. Later that night, I'm like, man, what do I want to do tonight? I think I want to watch Palm Springs again. So I just watched it again and then went for another walk and then went to bed at like 1:30 in the morning. It was a weird day.
The only movie I've ever done that with was Fifth Element. I finished watching Fifth Element for the first time, and I said to myself, you know what we should do? Me and my buddy Greg. So what should we do? We're like, dude, let's just watch Fifth Element again. And then we did that. It was great.
Anyway, I don't know a lot about movies, but I really liked that one, and I wanted to talk about it. So, what is our 4th star of the week, Dave?
So, Matt, our 4th star of the week is we are continuing from last summer, the Great Purge, the great life-changing magic of tidying up purge, and we're really close to the end of it, but we did a big reorganization today, which is very cool. We moved our bookshelves, which, if you've never been to my house, which, yeah, it would be weird if you had been to my house if you're not Mom or Dad or Matt or like producer Mark. I have a lot of books. Like a lot.
Yes, you have a lot of books, and you do not have the benefit that I do of having a library cart in your home.
That is correct. So, I think I counted it once. We've got like a few, I mean, it's not gigantic. We have like a few thousand volumes. Mm-hmm. So, but still substantial. So we moved them all out of one room and into a hallway, and it really opened up the room. And now that room is set up with all of the kids' like toy stuff. They've got a little toy kitchen and a toy washer and dryer from you, Matt, and they've got like toy versions of grown-up stuff, which is what kids love to do.
Right.
And now it's all in this one room, and my house feels a lot more like open and cleaner, and I really dig it.
Dude, that's great. Reorganizing.
It is great. That's the whole star, man.
Dude, reorganizing is great. You know what I watched last night? I watched a video of somebody from like the New York Times cooking channel, YouTube channel, just like going to an ex-Bon Appetit person's house and totally reorganizing their refrigerator. And I was like, if there was a series where like, and I tried to find it, I don't think there is a series, but like if there was a series where all it was this woman going to people's kitchens and reorganizing their refrigerators, I would watch 10 hours of that. Like, it was beautiful. Gave me a lot of ideas too. You know, they make like, there's like stuff that you can buy to like reorganize your refrigerator, which feels like it should be obvious, but it kind of never occurred to me before.
Yeah, I actually did not know that at all.
She put a Lazy Susan in the refrigerator for condiments.
Brilliant.
It was genius.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it does make sense. There's stuff to organize everything, but it did never occur to me expressly that there was stuff for your refrigerator. Matt, what is our fifth and final star of the week?
Our fifth and final star of the week. I am looking at the notes, and there is a big blank spot where there should be a fifth and final star of the week. Because...
Yeah, man. Dude.
It's... Okay, here's a fifth star of the week. We were talking to producer Mark earlier. He and his wife Holly are making dice, like role-playing game dice, at home. They're doing a great job. I saw pictures of them, and they look beautiful. That's what our stars are now. Our stars are now telling you things that our like close friends have done, because it's so impossible to do things anymore that like the only thing that we can rely on is like maybe someone we know did something.
And he did, and he made these really cool dice. Mark, you should send a picture to Matt, and he'll post it up on Twitter. They're
Mark
totally
put his
dope,
on
man.
his Twitter hours ago.
Oh, okay. Well, you could also put them on our Twitter. Anyways, the point is, he made dice. It's super dope that he did it. Very exciting.
It's so weird that you can just make stuff. Like stuff that doesn't seem like you can make it, but you can, and it's weird when it happens.
It is weird. Well, because here's the thing, Matt. Everything that exists that was made by somebody.
Right. But it seems like this is the same sort of mental journey that I went through with bread. It was like, well, sure, someone makes bread, but the person who makes bread is a baker, and I'm not a baker, so I can't make bread because I don't have the knowledge that a baker has. But like the idea that knowledge exists and can be acquired was kind of a bridge too far for me. And for something like, molding your own polyhedral dice, like that is like a step beyond that. Like you need equipment. They have like a pressure chamber that they do it in. It's a whole thing.
It is, but it's a very cool thing.
Very cool thing.
And they did make them.
Yes. So that's the fifth star of the week, folks. The stars are difficult, but they're very rewarding, and we hope that you enjoy them as much as we hope that you enjoy this next segment of the show where we talk about episode 17 of Denji Sentai Megaranger. It is called Too Cool, the Awesome Super Miku, written by Naruhisa Arakawa, original air date June 8th, 1997. You can watch along either with the DVDs or on Shout Factory's website, where they are all streaming for free. I recommend you do so. This is a fun episode. In a great location. It's a location shoot, guys. And you know what that means. And if you don't know what that means, I'll remind you when we are right back. Okay, welcome back to the Super Sentai Brothers podcast, episode 17. Dave, the show hasn't had a clunker yet.
Astonishingly,
there have been stronger and weaker episodes. Like not all of them have been the best episode of the show I've ever seen. And like maybe they're not doing as good of a job as like Jetman did of setting up like overarching character arcs and plots and stuff like that. But each individual episode has been really good.
Dude, I actually don't know that that's true. Well, we'll just get into it because I feel like this is a really, really strong character episode. So we open up. We're on the open road. We're on our way out to the country. So that's fun because dude, have you listened to any Canned Heat recently?
I've listened to that song in the last few months, but not other than that.
Do yourself a favor and go back and get into a little bit more of their back catalog.
Yeah.
Like obviously, their hits are their hits for a reason. Like they are, they're top tier of songs, but they're pretty good anyways.
So they're going up the country.
They're going up country. And I may be influenced by the fact that Dad really likes Canned Heat. Anyways, so
or maybe
they're
Dad
going
likes
up.
Canned Heat because Canned Heat is good. It's another it's another angle.
Good point, Matt. Good
it's
point.
Not chicken or egg, but it's a Dad Canned Heat situation.
Right.
Which came first?
Anyway.
So they're in a bus and they're driving. Miku...
So there's only one of two ways this is going to go, because anytime they're not in the city, they're either just like out in deep country, like out in like rural Japan, or they're going to Rindo Lake
Family
Family Fun Farm. Yes. And It is the latter. And I'm very excited because every year there is a Rindo Lake episode. I feel like they've got to have like a promotional... like Rindo Lake has to pay them. They must pay them.
Because it's not just a setting that they use every year. It's that when they do the Rindo Lake episodes, like this episode is straight up a commercial for Rindo Lake. Like when they show
there's
up,
an episode. There's a very good episode happening.
Yeah, but like it's happening inside a commercial for Rindo Lake Family Farm. Like there is a bit in it where Miku is just like in a montage of the many delightful attractions of Rindo Lake.
This
like,
I
calling
think is
them
the
out
most,
one at a time.
The most blatant year that this is the most commercially year as seen through like the eyes of Miku. So they're all on the bus. Miku
Kenta's hair is long enough that he can slick it back again.
I was gonna say
nice.
he did something with his hair. So Miku pulls out. Everybody's on the all the seniors because they're on their senior trip is what's going on. And man, let me tell you, every great once in a while I take kids on field trips. Do not love it. Do not love going on field trips.
Yeah, but kids do. I did.
They
love
do.
Field trips.
Yeah, because
not as much as Miku loves Rindo Lake, which seems to be more than anything. She has written a song.
She has. I'm assuming because it's got to be to the tune of something else. Because she has. This is the wildest thing I've ever seen.
It's amazing.
It's like a handheld karaoke machine. So it's like a microphone and a speaker, but also this is in 1996 or something.
So it's like they cut a boombox in half, plugged a microphone into it, and put a handle on the back, and that's what it is. It's a little sleeker than that, but like size-wise, this is definitely like... Would you say that this thing overall is bigger or smaller than like a Hulk hand? Like
I would say it's
Hulk hand?
marginally... Yeah. I think it's bigger along certain dimensions.
Sure.
Anyways,
there's not as much wrist
she's
action.
Like, Miku says, like, I'm going to sing a song. And astonishingly, everybody but the Rangers is excited about this. Like, they all want to hear this song.
Well, everyone but, like, the Rangers hang out with Miku all the time. I feel like Miku's coming in here with a lot of energy, and they're already... Like, Miku has a lot of energy, which is great. She's a wonderful character. But, like, you know you've got that friend who, like, is very, very energetic, and you have calibrated yourself to let that degree of energy sort of roll over you. But if they ever turn it up, like, it's very difficult to deal with. I think that Miku is that.
Yeah. Now, at first, they're saying something about the Nasu Highlands, and I was like, man, this is really weird, because this feels like the setup for the Rindo Lake episode. And then she's like, it's Rindo Lake, like the Nasu Highlands at Rindo Lake. I was like, of course. Nope, this totally makes sense. Shun is annoyed. Shun is embodying the vibe that Matt just put out there. He's like, Miku, oh my gosh. Everyone's like, she's kind of always like this. And he's like, no, but like, we're on a trip, so we can't get away from her. Like, this is just a lot. The worst teacher, their physics teacher, is there with them.
I mean, he's a good teacher. His heart's good. He knows physics.
We
not
assume
good at being
he knows.
a teacher, maybe, but...
I actually don't know that we have any evidence that he...
Remember in the episode when he was introduced, he actually, like, did a bunch of science to figure out what that, like, energy source that took the form of a giant D4 was?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But, of course, this was the guy who volunteered to, like, lead the field trip. He doesn't want to be in the school building. Like, he also doesn't want to deal with chaperoning a field trip, but once he's out of the school, there's no one to tell him that he has to, so he's just going. This is just a vacation for him. So they arrive at the hotel. Miku, like, barrels out of the bus, runs in, like, is the first in line to get her room keys. Chisato has, like, grabbed Miku's bag because Miku was in such a rush that she just didn't even grab her own luggage.
Yeah, this is where we get a really heavy commercial element. Like, she runs in and she's like, Sugoi, look at the lobby, it's so huge. Then, like, they open the room and she does, like, a quick tour as though she's, like, the bellhop of the room. She's like, look at these wonderful accommodations. Oh, the bed is so soft.
She looks at the alarm clock next to the bed, realizes it is 10:24 a.m. and that they are late for some sort of, like, meeting, or will be late if they don't leave immediately. She rushes out, kind of like knocks over Chisato on the way. Chisato is very put upon in the first 10 minutes of this episode.
She is. So then they are, like, Miku is just totally stoked about Rindo Lake. And then this is where we get a little bit more commercial. She's, like, sort of, like, running around.
We can go on the tram or the paddle boats, or we can walk down this nice set of stairs that has flowers on it. There's a lake. There are fountains in the lake. What could possibly be better than Rindo Lake?
This reminds me, I don't know if you were here for this conversation, Matt, when Katie was visiting. Our sister Katie lives in Japan and she teaches English. And she was telling us that there is a resort fairly near where she lives, which is just outside Tokyo. And they have constructed, like, a British country village.
That sounds
like,
pleasant.
Out of whole cloth. Yeah, no, they have constructed a British village. Like, they brought in, like, British craftsmen to do, like, wattle and daub fencing. And, like, they imported thatch from England. Like, no, like, they full-on recreated this thing. And it's like a resort, and you can go there. It's not like Pilgrim Plantation, where, like, they have period actors or whatever. It's just the buildings. But I guess they take their senior English students there. It's like, you learned English. Welcome to the English village.
Love it.
But I just think it's like such a wild idea that you would just create out of nothing an entire village from a different country. So anyways, they've run through all of this stuff. This is not a joke, Matt. It took me a half second to recognize Koichiro because he's not in his school uniform.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like just a beat, I was like, who is that? And I was like, oh, it's Koichiro. Why didn't I? Oh, because he's not in his uniform. So
the montage of things that Miku loves at Rindo Lake ends with her being really into having a cone of ice cream. And, you know, a cone of ice cream, the way that everyone phrases that particular food item. She's eating a conical iced cream, and she, like, throws her arms out in, like, pure joy and just mashes this ice cream cone into Chisato's face. Chisato is not happy. Like, she is wiping the ice cream off. Miku says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. As an apology, I will take all of your pictures." But she leans back too far against a fence and is about to fall into the lake, holding Chisato's expensive camera. Chisato, like, runs over, jumps up, standing on top of the rail that Miku is leaning over.
I really dug this moment.
Right.
Because it was like a sort of superhero moment. Like, Chisato is clearly activating some, like, advanced reflexes to save her camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, to save her camera. Because when she does this, she does not grab Miku. Miku is grabbed because she is holding the other side of the camera. But Chisato is there to grab her camera and make sure it doesn't get wet. Chisato gets saved incidentally. I'm sorry, Miku gets saved.
No, Miku gets saved.
Right. Chisato actually doesn't, because as soon as Miku and the camera are safe, she loses her balance on the railing and falls into the lake.
Yes. So she goes to the first aid. She gets some dry clothes. She's got a bit of a cold. She's feeling poorly. Miku is super duper sorry.
Yeah, but and they've all missed lunch there at this point.
They all missed lunch, which was, and the lunch was Korean barbecue. So Kenta's really upset. So basically, everybody is kind of mad, except Koichiro doesn't really have a reason to. But everybody has a reason to be mad at Miku.
Right, and I think it's Chisato says, like, this day could not possibly get worse, even if the Nezare arrive. Which, of course, means that immediately their digitizers start ringing, and Dr. Kubota's like, hey. About that.
Yeah,
you want to test that theory?
Definitely some Nezare energy around. Like, you go check it out. So Miku's like, no, we're on our senior trip. And Kubota says, I could not care less about that. And then when she looks up from everybody else is already gone. Right. They're on the mission.
So they have already henshined. They arrive. Oh, I'm sorry. I am skipping a crucial moment. Because this, weirdly, it's not a Dr. Hinelar episode, it's not a Ugande episode, and it's not a Shibolena episode.
I feel like this is a Hinelar plan.
Yeah, I guess, but it's mostly being executed by BBDB.
Weirdly,
which is weird.
Also weirdly, yes.
Because I barely think of BBDB as a character at this point in the show. I don't know. Maybe we get a lot more BBDB as this show progresses.
And he does not seem like any really more of a character than he already did.
Yeah.
It's a weird call. I think the only reason that they had BBDB do it is because he has like a degree of like recognizable incompetence. So here's what's about to happen. There's 10,000 toad Nezare eggs in the lake at Rindo Lake, which feels like a lot. Yeah. That's an unsettling number of, like, just the phrase 10,000 eggs. I'm not sure why, but it's too many.
Oh, sure.
And so here's the deal. So BBDB has like two
He's got two guns. He's a two-gun kid.
With like fluid in them, and he's like, I'm going to hatch energy fluid. He's like, I'm going to hatch all these eggs at once. And then the Rangers show up. They're like, what are you doing? And he's just like, don't even mess with me. I'm the ultimate life form of Nezare science, which seems extremely unlikely. And then he's like, I brought a gun. And then Pink just grabs him.
Right,
because she shows up late.
Yeah, she shows up late, so she kind of like walks in behind where he's floating, and he's like the size of a volleyball. So she just grabs him out of the air, and in his sort of scramble to get away, instead of shooting her with the blue gun, which he has brought to like attack people, he shoots her with the red gun, which is the one that he was going to use to activate all of the Toad Nezare eggs. Now, this does have an effect on her. Like, she sort of falls over. All of the, like, the Megaranger costumes have these, like, color blocks that go across the chest. Like, one for each color of the various Megarangers. All of those turn gold. She falls over. And BBDB, like, after a moment, gets out of there. But in so doing, drops both of his guns. He drops the red one in the lake, and he drops the blue one sort of on the shore.
Yes.
He skedaddles.
So, Miku... Yeah, so we go back, and everybody's in Miku and Shusato's room. Miku was kind of like out, and they're talking to Dr. Kubota, and they're like, there was a fluid, we don't really know. And then all of a sudden, Miku wakes up, she sort of like sits straight up, takes her covers off, kind of ties her hair up, and has a complete character shift. And I actually give a lot of credit to the actress here. This is like, she's almost playing like a totally different person. Yeah. It's really great.
She's almost playing Koichiro. Kind of.
That's a good point. And so all of a sudden, she's like super serious, and she is extremely competent. She's like answering questions and be like, hey, did we go check out the lake? Did we do like X or Y or Z?
It's like previously she had limits, but now she's like, I don't know, limitless or something. This is a joke about the Bradley Cooper movie Limitless. Which I have never seen and only know in context of like extended Comedy Bang Bang bits from that podcast. So I'm going to try to not make a lot of Limitless jokes. But if you have listened to the Comedy Bang Bang, please know that I will be struggling the entire episode to not just call her Limitless Lucy. Anyway, because she's also kind of a Lucy.
Anyways,
from the movie
she
Lucy.
She is kind of a Lucy. That's true. I did go back and watch Lucy. Was not great, actually. Like, all of, like, the cool... There's, like, all the cool action sequences. Like, you kind of saw most of them in the trailer, and then it just got very weird. Anyways...
So what has happened, we find out pretty quickly, is that, like... Basically, like, her entire... You know that thing where everyone used to say, like, you only use 10% of your brain... And she's like, now I'm using my entire brain and also my entire body. She's also Deathstroke. She is Deathstroke and Limitless and Lucy, basically.
So
that's what Super Miku is.
What the red energy is it was the energy that was going to mature and hatch all of these toad eggs. It's like a super growth development evolution energy
Yeah,
that was supposed to turn eggs into monsters.
We find that out a little
her.
later in the episode, but that is what's happening. Oh, also, when the gun fell into the lake, it went off, but it only hit one of the eggs. So one of the Toad Nezares has hatched, or will be hatching shortly. By the way, Koichiro, like, everyone notices the difference in her. Kenta is annoyed because now she is, like, telling him he has to do work. Koichiro is super into the new Miku.
Yeah, Shun is also pretty into it. Chisato is dubious at best.
Yeah.
So, we jump in. Shibolina's on it. She's like trying to salvage the situation on the Nezare end. Toad Nezare is born. I dig his look.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just a big toad man.
He's a battle toad. He's just a battle toad.
He's a battle toad. I have sort of a soft spot based on the Jade Empire's skill tree, where you could learn to summon those like giant demon toads, and then also battle toads. I've got kind of a weird soft spot for like big toad, like were-toads, effectively. Like, I just think they're cool. And that's what Toad Nezare is, and I do think he's got a cool look.
Yeah.
So he says the other eggs are still there.
Right.
They didn't get destroyed, and Toad Nezare has a gun. This is what Shibolina's saying. She says Toad Nezare has the gun, like he has his own copy of it somehow.
Well, no, it's that he has the red gun, but it's out of ammo.
Oh, that's what it is.
But, like, when the eggs... Like, the ammo was derived from something inside the eggs as they hatched normally. So once the first one or two of the eggs hatch, he'll be able to harvest, like, the egg fluid, like, around it, and then convert that back into the energy of the gun, and then use it to do, like, a mass hatching, and they can sort of, like, start the plan over from there.
Yeah. But, like, the plan is good. There was a little bit of exposition with, like, the Rangers were sort of, like, Miku really was, like, sussing all of this out, like, with her super brain now. And then they just show up. Yeah. So Miku is in the lead. Like, she's in the Red Ranger spot. She's right in the middle. And she does the, like, slow approach walk, like, totally dominating the situation. It's great. Shibolina calls him Kune Kune. And they fight. And then... Miku basically solos this whole fight.
Yes.
The other Rangers are busy with the Kune Kune, and she's like, wait a minute, something isn't right. And she runs to the edge of the lake, does a telephone search, realizes that there's all these eggs down in the bottom, calls the other Rangers over, and is like, basically blast the bejesus out of this lake.
Right. Now, Toad Nezare hates this. Because, like, he's like, you just killed 10,000 of my brothers, dude. Like, that is not a thing that I love. Me, a toad monster. There's more fighting. There gets to be this bit where Miku is facing off against Toad Nezare alone. Like, they've, like, jumped further away. It takes everybody else a while for them to get there. But Miku is, like, using her limitless brain to hack into the Megaranger power grid and summon everybody else's weapons. So she's, like, summoning the drill saber to defeat Toad Nezare and, like, go through all the other weapons. And everyone's cheering her on, like, oh my gosh, Miku, you're amazing.
They are a little bit like, how did you even do that? Like, when did you get my drill saber?
Dave, she doesn't have limits anymore. Anyway, she wins. She is about to completely destroy Toad Nezare, but Shibolina shows up and is like, we're still going to try to do something here. I got to save this idiot monster. We're out of here. They leave. Everyone cheers.
Yeah. So what we get then is like a handful of scenes where we are seeing, does Miku have any limits? The answer is no.
Absolutely not. Her
IQ? None whatsoever.
Her IQ is 800.
Her IQ, she does this test, it's 800, which is a genuinely comedic number. Like, that's...
Oh, yeah. She's a real Marilyn Vos savant.
There's just no...
she plays...
You can't possibly norm reference a scale. It would be completely unreliable.
Yeah.
Like, you have no way to judge that.
She plays tennis with them and, like, hits the tennis ball so hard that it knocks the tennis racket out of Kenta's hand. And then the tennis ball is still going fast enough that it, like, buries itself into the hill behind them.
So there is a quick moment where while she's doing the IQ test, they're like looking at the problem that she's trying to do, and Shun says, "It's a PhD level problem. Even I can't solve it." Which is just like that's like a bizarre statement from Shun. Especially given what he has said about himself in the previous episode where they're at the super smart school. It's just like, of course you can't solve a PhD level problem. You're like you're in high school. Like you're 17.
Wow, okay.
Like, that would be absurd.
I think maybe the reason they put that line in is that in the previous episode, they did say that he was solving like either college or graduate level coursework. Like when they were all sitting in that room doing work for Owl Nezare.
Oh,
and
they
so,
did? Okay.
And so,
all right.
Maybe he has, like, master's degree science brain, but, like, this is PhD level work, and that's even beyond Shun.
Whoa.
Oh, by the way, at this point, Miku
So-
has started referring to herself as Super Miku. That is not just the title of the episode. Yeah. She is now Super Miku.
I mean, wouldn't you? So
I might.
When they're done doing... I feel like Super Matt would be Super Miko would be a real weird pull. So they're in the locker room cleaning up after this tennis match, and it's Chisato and Miku has these like two mega yellow, mega pink like chibi stuffies that she has made. I guess
she just made it like quick sewed up a couple of plush dolls, and
Chisato is like, "Did you make those?" And Miku's like, "Listen, man, I know that, like, I am kind of a she doesn't say ditz, but, like, she's like, I know I'm kind of a ditz, and, like, I cause trouble sometimes, but, like, you guys are my best friends, and, like, I care about you so much." And Chisato says, like, "Oh, my gosh, like, you're incredible." Like
Super Miku rules. Thank you, Super Miku.
Yeah. So, then we see Miku has this, like, it's real quick, but she has this, like, spasm kind of, and Chisato notices it, but Miku says, like, no, it's nothing. Like, don't even worry about it. And then they leave.
Yeah. They meet up with the guys. They're going out for a walk. The guys are like, man, like, suddenly we are very thirsty. Super Miku, of course, has anticipated their thirst and brought beverages along with her superhuman brain. She remembered that people like to drink things. Hands them off. Everyone's like, dude, Super Miku, on it 100% of the time. The best person we've ever met. Thank you so much for existing, Super Miku. She gets another flash, like, sort of like pain flash. She's like, okay, I'm going to step away from you guys. I just need to run over there for a few minutes.
Chisato follows her.
Right.
Into the bathroom, where Miku is having, like, very obviously having another, like, really intense episode.
Right.
Whatever this problem is.
She's having a super science headache. It's not a regular headache.
And Chisato's like, "Are you okay?" Miku's like, "Yes, of course I'm fine." They go back to their room. Dr. Kubota calls in, and he says, we figured it out. The red fluid is the thing that we said it was earlier. It's this, like, super evolution fluid.
Yeah. It's a crazy stimulant as well.
And the blue fluid would somehow, like, stop it or reverse it or slow it down.
Yeah.
And Chisato's like, "Oh, great. Like, that would be very good." And Kubota says, like, "Why? Was there a side effect?" And Miku says, "Absolutely not. There was no side effect. I'm Super Miku. Everything is rad. Totally cool." Then there's an earthquake, and we find out that Toad Nezare is using his weird red energy gun to, like, stimulate the volcano?
Yeah, he's trying to trigger a volcano to destroy them all to get revenge for his 10,000 brothers who were all killed in the bottom of the lake. Which, like, I don't want him to do it, but I get it.
Yeah, that's a reasonable motivation.
So, as Chisato is like, okay, cool, we're going to beat him, we're going to get the blue gun, we're going to figure all this out, Miku just runs back to her hotel room and, like, shuts the door when Chisato tries to come in. Or rather, she's going to push her out of the room in a minute. Yeah. Chisato's like, "Miku, what are you doing? Like, we have to go fight the monster." Miku says, "You guys go deal with this one without me. You'll be fine. I need to stay away because if I get hit with the blue gun, I'll go back to being regular Miku." And Chisato's like, "Well,
this is where..."
"Yeah, sure, that's fine. Like, whatever. We got to go fight the monster." And Miku's like, "No. Yeah. Like, I do not want to go back to being regular Miku."
Yeah. And this is where the episode Like, this is where the episode really starts to get very, very good. Because Chisato is like, what are you talking about? Like, you are in danger. Like, you might die. And Miku says, dude, you said it yourself. Like, all I do is get into trouble. And you said that you like Super Miku better. And, I care about you guys, and I only want to be Super Miku from now on. Like, it is not worth it to risk it, to go back to being regular Miku. Like, I won't do it. You can't make me.
Right. Like, it might cause me pain and kill me, but, like, I am at the top of my game, and until this, like, destroys me, I refuse to give up being Super Miku, because Super Miku is, like, so much better for you guys.
Yeah. Oh, man. And I just, like, I hope I don't know if we're really giving full shrift to, like, how great a performance this is. Like, she is really, it's a really powerful performance because you can see, like, Shun and Koichiro and Chisato, and I think this is what I was going to talk about before when we were leading up to this scene, about comparing to Jetman. Like, are they building in these long-term character arcs? And I really think they are. And it's different, and it looks different because they're in high school rather than Jetman. But, in the context of the Rangers, Kenta is, I guess, the Red Ranger, but he is, like, the least Red Ranger so far. Like, he's made even fewer moves than, who's the Red Ranger from Kaku Ranger?
Sasuke, right?
Sasuke, thank you. Like, he's made even fewer moves than Sasuke toward being the captain of this team.
Although, interestingly, I feel like Kenta is kind of a new mold for Red Rangers that we're going to continue to see in future seasons.
Interesting.
I feel like a modern Red Ranger looks a lot more like Kenta than it does like Ryo
or something. Okay, interesting. And so we've got this dynamic where, like, Shun and Koichiro and Chisato are varying degrees of serious, but all very competent.
Right.
Like, they're very good at the thing that they do. And then there's Kenta and Miku. And Kenta is good at video games, and Miku doesn't seem to really be good at anything.
Well, okay, so, like, Kenta is sort of an idiot savant, right? Like, he's very bad at almost everything but video games, and because of the nature of this show, being good at video games also means that he's good at being a Mega Ranger, because that's how the Mega Ranger program was designed. And Miku, it's not like Miku is a smart person, like, Miku was already in the, like, honors club friend group because she was sort of, like, on that level. But she doesn't have the same sort of, like, motivation along those lines that the other three do. And she also doesn't have that, like, weird Kenta X factor. So, like, she brings a lot to the table, but a lot of what she brings to the table is, like, a little inspecific, in a way that, like, frankly, like, I identify with that a lot.
I think got weirdly deep there, Matt.
Hey, man. Having a weird week. It's a good episode, though.
Having a weird week. It's a raw episode. Well, and here's the thing that I think is really good, is that it would have been very easy to just sort of narratively to leave Miku at that spot. But what this episode shows us is that Miku is very self-aware about occupying that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really lends narrative power to the episode. That, like, now all of a sudden we know that over the past 16 episodes, what we have been seeing is not a Miku that is sort of, like, blithely, like, rolling along. We have been seeing a Miku that has been, like, secretly harboring this concern about her relationship and interactions with the rest of the Rangers.
Right, not just as a superhero team, but, like, as a friend group. And frankly, this isn't the first time we've seen this sort of thing. Like, in the previous Miku-heavy episode, where it was very, like, she just got very frank about how she kind of doesn't know what she wants to do with her future. And, like, she's smart, but she doesn't feel, like, led to follow the sort of career path that intelligence would necessarily, like, lead her down. And that maybe is why she's been sort of leaning into her sort of, like, fun-loving, more sort of, like, Kenta-leaning side of her personality. So, like, we've kind of been seeing it play out the whole season, but this episode really brings it into focus in a cool way.
It is. It's a really, really good episode.
Man, we used to have jokes on this show. There was a... Listen,
we used to.
I'm not upset that we are, like genuinely talking about how much we like this well-constructed TV show. Every once in a while, like, I feel like there used to be jokes and that I can't remember how to put them in the show anymore.
Man, we'll get back to jokes times later.
We used to have running gags. I used to sing "On the Wings of Love." It was great.
Well, Matt, there's nothing stopping you. I should say that.
Well, I mean, it's not thematic for the season. Maybe I'll find a way to work it in. Anyway,
okay.
Where are we?
So Chisato is just like, listen, I actually cannot deal with this. Like, I would love to, but there is an active toad monster creating a volcano. So, like, I have to go. So they run out. They're all henshin. They go to fight Toad Nezare, and it goes really poorly.
Sure.
Like, they are getting blasted. And then we're, like, flashing back, and Miku is hearing them over her comm changer, her henshin device. I can't remember what it's called all of a sudden. Thank you.
She's hearing them actually, in my notes, I have it written as Mega Changer, because I think that would be a very good name for it, and I forgot what the real name was. And then
my notes say Mega Changer too.
And then I have it crossed out, and I wrote Digitizer because I actually remembered what it was. And they're doing very bad, and she could hear it over the Digitizer.
And they're narrating how badly it's going, but they are also saying, like, "Hey, Miku, do you hear how badly this is going? We need you here." And then there's other stuff like,
right. And again, it's a great way to construct this episode because they are just narrating the fight and making the subtext text, but they are doing it because they're telling someone who isn't in the scene information that they need to hear.
Yeah. They're like, I think Chisato says, you said you give us trouble, but we've never told you to stop. Like, Miku is Miku, whether you're super or not, like, you're our friend and we love you. Like, friends no matter what. Which, man, anytime we get a, like, best friends forever, friends no matter what power friendship moment in Sentai, and there's a lot of them, but...
Sure, it happens. I mean, it's what the show is.
It's what the show is, but it's a great thing, and I always love it. So...
Miku cries. She looks over and she sees, like, the plush dolls that she had made for Chisato earlier, and, like... just starts running off towards the fight.
Right. We get the end credits song, which is just about the digitizer, which is weird. But then it is weird. First of all, it is weird to me that she runs instead of just henshining and, like, cyber slidering because they're very fast.
Right. You would think that if she had her, like, crazy limitless brain, that would have been her first thought. But whatever. Like, the whole limitless thing is kind of breaking down at this point. Because, like, it's kind of like she's having feedback from it.
Right. So Miku shows up, and then it's just like it's a girl power fight. Like, they get all the weapons. Like, the dudes are just sort of I don't get a clear reason as to why they're not in. Maybe they're just hurt.
Oh yeah.
But
so, like,
Chisato and Miku,
they just throw their weapons to them, and I think that, like, it serves two purposes. One, it lets it be like a great Miku Chisato fight, but also Miku and Chisato's weapons are both ranged weapons. So if you want to give them, like, a great melee fight using signature weapons, having Kenta, like, throw his drill saber over to Miku really sort of, like, just opens that up for you. And it's great.
Yes, it is. It is a killer. It just works really well. So friendship, they blast him. It's somewhere in there Miku, like, uses up the limitless energy, demonstrating that it is not in fact limitless, or because I don't think she gets blasted with the blue energy.
No, she never does, which is weird. I think what it's trying to get across is that when they defeat Toad Nezare, like, that breaks the power of it or something, because it coincides with that, but it's not really explained well, Which is a shame, because it's kind of like the one dangling thing from this episode. But whatever, it doesn't actually matter.
Anyways, things are back to normal. Hooray. There's a giant fight. Like, Toad and Desiree goes giant, of course. And then things get just buck wild.
Oh, yeah. So they're going in to have a fight as, you know, they summon Galaxy Mega. And Miku says, like, listen to me. I got this. But of course, she is no longer Super Miku. She's just regular Miku, which is fine because it's still, you know, she's still one of the Mega Rangers. But now people are like second guessing her again because, well, okay. What she suggests is that they use like the giant energy snake power that they have because this man is a giant toad. So of course his weakness would be giant snakes. Now, Dave, you may be saying, what giant energy snake power? I don't remember that ever existing.
Well, it certainly didn't before just now, because what they do is that the Mega Saber just turns into like a big old Luminaries style, like
cartoon energy
hologram snake.
Luminaries.
Yeah.
Wow,
so
good poll.
Thank you. I felt good when I said it. So, dude, have you gone back? The show is not good, but
the opening sequence?
I stand pretty firm in the opinion that like the opening sequence of like that particular era and vibe of Saturday morning cartoon show is unparalleled.
Well, sure, because
like,
that's where
every single one of those crushes.
That's where the entire budget of the show was into the opening sequence. They're like,
man,
we need a killer opening sequence and a toy line, and everything else is secondary. Anyway, so this...
Listen, it was a solid model.
The snake thing works. I am assuming that, I don't know, when she suggested it as an issue, Shun reprogrammed the sword on the fly the same way that he reprogrammed their shield into a mirror a few episodes ago.
Now, that would work. Well, anyways, it does turn into a giant snake, and Toad and Desiree does freak out and try to, like, quickly hop away. This is, like, I don't think it's meant to be a visual gag, but the sight gag of a man in like a giant foam rubber toad costume just like quickly trying to like hurriedly / frightened pop away, it's good comedy. So then he just gets like mega slashed up. That's the end of Toad and Desiree. And now the episode ends. They're chilling out, finishing their senior trip. They are at the pool.
Koichiro says that like he does specify, like, as a Mega Ranger. Like, not as her friend.
He's like, only as a Mega Ranger.
But, like, as a Mega Ranger, it's a little disappointing that we no longer have, like, an unbeatable super being on our team.
Yeah, I did note that everybody is in the pool except Shun. Shun is keeping that hair bone dry and perfectly coiffed.
I mean, of course.
I thought that was a great touch.
It's got great hair.
And then, Chisato shows up and Miku shows up. And, like, there's some banter, and, like, everybody's fine. And then Miku is, like, excited, and she accidentally punches Chisato in the face and, like, knocks her into the pool.
She does say, I am no longer Super Miku. I am now just Convenient Miku. Which I don't know if that's a weird translation thing, but it is an odd thing to call yourself. But
so anyways,
great episode. But, of course, that's the end of the episode, Dave. It's not the end of our episode. Because, as you know, I'm sure... first, we need to determine where Toad and Desiree lands in the Creature Royale. Okay, so Dave, where is Toad and Desiree on the list? Is he number 1? Is he better than Jin the Demon Fist from Dire Ranger?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he is not.
Let's go a little further down the list. Number 2, General Kamikaze, one of the 3 Stooges from Dire Ranger. A lot of good monsters in Dire Ranger.
Yeah, well, if you're talking about, I really feel like you have to...
First 4 are all Dire Ranger, because the 2, 3, and 4 are the... all of the 3 Stooges, of course, General Kamikaze, Teacher Telephone, and...
Yeah, so I would say no.
And
I would say no, he is not.
Company President Tombstone. Okay, well, number 5 is Barra Revenger. Barra Revenger
I think we
good.
Can probably hop.
You want to go down
I think
a little
we can
further?
Yeah, I think we can go down a bit.
Okay.
Well, we don't have any other frog monsters, and we don't have any other toad monsters, and we don't have any other evolution monsters.
We do have other Rindo Lake Family Fun Farm monsters. Can we remember which ones happened at Rindo Lake?
Tengu, no. Dr. Yagami was at Rindo Lake, but he's really more of a... Okay, Dr. Yagami is spot number 25, and he's not anywhere close to that.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I dig about him. He's got a good look, and I like his motivation.
Like his motivation.
I like his vibe that he's like, you killed my
10,000, which is unusual.
Right. I like that he's like, you killed my 10,000 Toad brothers, and I'm here for revenge.
The stimulant and degrading energy guns do not seem necessarily tied to him as a monster. Those are sort of add-ons. But I think that
it's like definitely part of his
like
thing because it's out of the egg,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So
those were an add-on, but like they're related at least.
Right. No, I am pretty actually into it.
Okay,
now,
we do have another monster that tried to trigger a volcano. Who was that guy
Meteor
from Kaku Ranger? He was...
was it a meteor?
No, remember he was like a minor fireman monster? And he was like setting charges in the side of a mountain to like trigger an explosion that would cause a volcano to destroy Tokyo. Do we have any way of remembering the name of that monster so we can find them on this list?
Okay, well, hey, there's Bara Magma. He's at spot number 92, and I think he's cooler than that. So...
Okay.
I'm going to say...
Cooler than 92.
Cooler than 92. He's cooler than Bara Magma. And then, yeah. Like, okay, Bara Devil, Traffic Light Dimension. I like him better than a lot of these folks. I think he is really cool. I just dig his thirst for revenge.
I dig his thirst for revenge,
really into
and
it.
that's why I think that the highest he can go is number 89, in between Earring Priestess and Kochin Kozo, the Ghost Lantern monster from Kaku Ranger, because I think that the Jewelry Priestesses have, like, they've also got that.
They have that same, like, sibling revenge vibe.
Sibling revenge vibe, but they were, like, recurring characters, and each one of them was an individual thing.
Okay, I would say I like him better than... the Slot Machine monster. Okay. I don't think I like him better than Bara Magma. Bara Magma actually was also pretty dope.
Okay. Well, do we want to slot him in at the new number 93 between...
I think that's where he goes.
Kanegama and the Bara Magma? Magma?
There he is.
There it is. That's how you say that word.
Mm-hmm. So slot number 93, Toad and Ezra, pretty good showing, bud.
Pretty good, bud. Anyway, so that, folks, is the end of this here episode of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger. Before we finish up here, we'd like to remind you all you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. If you want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we are talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, that's great, and I'm very happy to hear it. If you would like to tell people that you like the show, either in person or on the podcatcher of your choice, please remember that, of course, that in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. And if you give all of those to us, you and I will both feel good about it. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can find them all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.